So, Diamond Pearl. These games are somewhat beloved by the community. And, well, they've had some interesting Pokemon, 10 of which I'm going to be going through and remembering some fond memories of them. Of course, obviously, let's get into the video, because at number 10, I of course have Miss Magius. Miss Magius was crap in Gen 2 and Gen 3. It was an interesting Pokemon, but it really needed an evolution. Fortunately, Gen 4 solved that issue as we got a spooky evolution for this little spooky ghost. It learned quite a few interesting moves, had better stats, and overall was just way more useful than Mischievous ever was. And of course, it seemed like it got more attention as it kind of got Paradox one. I mean, there's another Pokemon that looks especially like it, but I don't know the relationship. But yeah, moving on. Of course, at number 9, we of course have Honchkrow. Same issue with Miss Magius. Murkrow was uninteresting. Like, Mischievous actually had its design going for it, but Murkrow was just a crow Pokemon that just kind of looked like it had a witch hat. Gen 4 made Murkrow even better as, again, Honchkrow was its evolution and had quite a few interesting moves. Also, the physical special split that Gen 4 brought actually helped these two Pokemon a lot more, as it, in my opinion, definitely improved their stats, along with the new moves that this generation brought. It made them a bit more interesting, and two of my favorite Sinnoh Pokemon. Of course, next up, we of course have Dropion. My love for Dropion got reignited with Brilliant Diamond. I had a Dropion on my team, and I've had it once before on a Platinum team, but I forgot how intimidating and just how awesome this Pokemon was. It was definitely the MVP on my team, aside from the Nidoking and Butterfree I had. And I'm glad that it's still a fun Pokemon all these years later. And of course we have another fun Pokemon being Frostless. Frostless was a new evolution for Snowen, causing it to have a branched evolution. And Frostless definitely deserved to be in the game. It's a pretty fun Pokemon. It's an Ice Ghost type, and well, it's very useful in battle and kind of difficult to face under the right circumstances. And of course has one of the creepiest Pokedex entries in the game, according to Hardcore and Soul Silver. But other than that, Frostless is a fun Pokemon, and is one I always have fun using. Of course, number 6, I of course have Staraptor. Okay, yeah, my bad. Apparently I wrote down Staravia. So yeah, I guess Staravia is Starly's final evolution now. Staraptor is the regional bird Pokemon, and the first one to really be on any of my lists. Now, I do like Pidgeot, and I do like Spearow, along with Swallow, but Staraptor, in my opinion, was way more interesting than any of them. It's a very fun Pokemon to use in battle. It has some pretty nice stats, and learns some pretty nice moves. And in my opinion, it probably should have been pure flying, as some of it's not, as it doesn't really learn many interesting normal type moves, but it learns some pretty fun flying type moves, which makes it pretty fun to use in my opinion. Because next up, we of course have Luxray, another early route Pokemon, and a pretty fun one. At first, Shinx is just a cute Pokemon, but when it eventually evolves into Luxray, you unlock a beast to face. It learns a lot of fun electric type moves and some great dark type moves, and in my opinion, it shouldn't have actually been a electric dark type, as I mean, that would have been fun. Would have probably made him way too overpowered, but I mean, you kind of like have like a lot of overpowered Pokemon to begin with. Dragonite, Tyranitar. But yeah, moving on. Because at number 4, we of course have a, well, overpowered Pokemon being Garchomp. Garchomp is a fun Pokemon. It's a ground dragon type, and not our first ground dragon type, but a very interesting ground dragon type. This thing was a monster to face. My first couple battles against Cynthia, this dude would pretty much one-shot every one of my Pokemon. And in my recent playthrough of Brilliant Diamond, I wound up losing to a Garchomp. Yeah, even like 15 years later, and her Garchomp is still a nightmare to face. But having a couple of my own, I can admit Garchomp's a pretty fun Pokemon. It learns a lot of interesting moves. It's a absolute powerhouse, and heck, I haven't even used its Mega Evolution, but unfortunately from what I've heard, apparently its speed gets lowered or something, which is kind of unfortunate. Number 3, we of course have Magnezone. Magnezone's a fun Pokemon. Sinnoh was infamous for two things: having evolutions to all the Pokemon / new baby forms, and, well, being slow. Magnezone was a fun Pokemon. It's a fun evolution of Magnemite. Well, no. Yep, I got that right this time. It's a fun evolution of the Magnemite line, and, well, it wasn't a needed evolution, as Magneton is pretty decent, but Magnezone made a decent Pokemon go up all the way to a very fun to use Pokemon. It learns a ton of fun electric type moves, and its steel typing makes it pretty useful in battle. And sure, despite its 4 times weakness to ground and its added weakness to fire and fighting, it is still a fun Pokemon to use in my opinion, and that thing hits hard at times. And of course, next up is Roserade. The final evolution to Roselia, Roserade is arguably one of my favorite grass-type Pokemon, and was fighting for the top spot of this list. Roserade is one of my favorite Pokemon, and it got even better with the Sinnoh remakes as it gained the ability to learn Dazzling Gleam. I don't know if this was a thing in Gen 6, 7, or like early 8, but it was fun teaching it how to use Dazzling Gleam, as I love making Roserade overpowered. Of course, a couple honorable mentions before I get to my number 1 spot, and as of course, Lumineon and Hippowdon. Lumineon I grew to love a bit during my recent Sinnoh playthrough. It's forgettable, but it is a really fun Pokemon to use, and Hippowdon, it's kind of a monster facing battle. I'd also have to add Gliscor, because, again, it's a fun Pokemon, but it was a massive pain to face because of Bertha. But moving on to my number 1 pick, we of course have Magmortar. Yeah, Electivire and Gallade are Pokemon I've never used and don't have intent to use, although Iron Valiant does look pretty cool. Magmortar is a fun Pokemon. It's a final evolution to Magmar, and, well, again, not a needed evolution, but it was a very fun evolution, and again, in my opinion, it is a very overpowered Pokemon. It hits hard and has become one of my favorite Sinnoh Pokemon, and a Pokemon that I will always try to use if it's in the regional decks. But of course, these were my Sinnoh Pokemon. I of course do plan to knock out the other regions in the upcoming weeks or even month. But of course, I'm going to try to knock out a couple other reviews, so stay tuned if you're interested in the channel. So of course, until then, goodbye, and thank you for watching.